One of the most advanced body weight pressing movements is going to be the dip. Now this is an exercise that can be controversial because it can be a little bit straining on the shoulder. That being said, we only advise you to train it if you have already mastered the push-up and mastered other movements that allow for shoulder stability. But if you're healthy and you got good movement, then a dip is a perfect exercise for you. So here's how we're going to set it up. When you set up the dip bar, first off, it doesn't have to be too high. Just above your hips will be more than enough to get you off the ground. You'll see that the bar is angled because based on your body size, you want those hands to be in a comfortable position, and it might take a little practice to find that spot. Once you do, just like any other pressing, we want the wrist to be as straight as possible and as strong as possible. So you can go with a full grip, or more commonly, because the bar tends to be fat, go with a false grip or just put your thumbs directly on top. Regardless of how you grip it, I want you to squeeze that bar hard to strengthen that wrist and get that meat holding the weight and that wrist supported through the motion. When I bring myself to the top, I'm going to push myself away from the ground so that my shoulders are not sticking up in my ears. I am pushing down, and I feel my triceps fire up, and I feel my lats and my armpits get really tight and strong. My lower body, I'm going to tuck my feet behind me, pinch my thighs together, squeeze my butt, and brace my belly so that my whole body is turning into one big piece, the same way we would if we were practicing a pull-up. As I lower into the motion, I'm going to think about elbows cueing first, and I'm going to think about pulling myself down towards the floor. My elbows are going to go behind me, which means that there is going to be some shoulder movement, but I want those shoulders to pull back together like they do in a push-up, and you will feel a slight shrug type of motion. What I want to be careful of is letting those shoulders wing out and have my shoulders dive forward. If you feel that tension in the back disappear and that strain on the front of the shoulder really show up, that's a good sign that you are letting that shoulder collapse forward. Instead, you are pulling into that upper back, shoulders getting nice and tight, feeling all that tension building up. In practice, when I build up that tension, you're going to see my body's going to have a slight angle. As I pull myself down, my shoulders stayed in a good position, push all the way through at the top, finishing each rep fully by pressing down and away from the floor. That's the dip. Now, if you need to decrease the difficulty just slightly, then we're going to use a band. Now, we recommend only using a light band. If you need a lot of band support, then likely this exercise is just a little bit too advanced for you at this time. Regress, build up more upper body strength, and then come back to it later. But if you just need a little bit of help cueing the position and making it smooth, I'm simply looping a band around both sides of the bar, and I'm going to let my knees sit right on top. Get the band out of your way of your hand, and we're going to let my knees sit right on top of that bar. That's going to help me control my body position and reduce some of the tension required at the bottom when your shoulder's in that deep flexion. It's going to take a little bit of pressure off to help you initiate back up and get more comfortable getting into those deeper ranges of motion. An alternative, if your bar is set low enough, or if you have a box and you don't have a band, simply letting your feet dangle and tap onto the floor behind you will be another way of reducing the effort needed and letting your legs help you to return in position back up. Okay? 2 ways of you making it just slightly easier to get used to the position and then get those feet up. Now, as you progress in strength, to make this more challenging, using a weight belt and either a plate or a dumbbell is a perfect example. Loop it around, and then when you get that position, it's very important to control that dumbbell. That's all going to come back to pinching your thighs together, pinching your butt together, and maintaining that control. With good technique, you see there's not a lot of swing going on. So if that dumbbell is swinging back and forth, that's just amplifying and telling you that you're losing that control. Okay? If you don't have a weight belt available, with lighter weights up into a certain point, you can get away with simply holding this guy right between your thighs and pinching tight. If you got thighs like mine, it's easy to do that, but it's another way to reinforce you making sure you're building tension in that lower body. Boom, during that movement. Okay? That's how you can progress.